morning, third graders. So what we're doing today is we are practicing using those annotating strategies that we've talked about in the past that great readers always do. And we are also practicing asking questions as we read a poem. Sometimes poems can be confusing. So the strategy of backing up and rereading makes it super important to help you make better sense of what you're reading. So our learning target today is I can use a strategy to help me understand what I'm reading in a poem and to help me understand the deeper meaning behind the poem. Our success criteria today is that I can use an annotating tool to help me better understand and make sense of what I'm reading. So this poem today is called The Mysterious Egg, and you are going to be answering the questions about this poem, but I'm going to show you today the strategies you can use to help you make better sense of what you're reading. Because again, sometimes poems are confusing, and you don't have to just read the poem and say, well, that was confusing, and then answer the questions. There's different strategies you can use to help you with making better sense of the poem so that when you get to the questions, you're like, oh, I completely understand, what this is asking me. So this poem is called The Mysterious Egg. The really great thing about CommonLit, and we've talked about this before, is that you can annotate while you read. And again, annotate is when you're taking notes while you're reading. And your taking notes could be you asking a question. It could be you kind of jotting something down so you can remember it for later. So this text is called The Mysterious Egg. And I'm looking at this picture and I'm noticing all the animals are surrounding this egg. And the rooster is saying, well, whose egg are you? So I'm going to predict, and a predict is when you're taking a guess. I'm going to kind of highlight this part, and highlighting means that you're clicking and then you're kind of dragging the cursor, but you're not letting go until you get to the end of what you want to get to. And, oh, it's not letting me annotate that. So you know what? I'm just going to kind of make my prediction now. So I'm just going to make my prediction orally, and I'm going to predict that this is going to be about some animals on a farm, because it looks like the setting is a farm. It looks like they're inside of a barn, and I'm going to predict that they're trying to figure out whose egg that is, like which animal had that egg. So they're going to be kind of, maybe for them to say, whose egg are you? Maybe they're going to be talking to the egg and being like, well, are you the cow's egg? Are you the duck's egg? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's what it's going to be about. So let me read these directions. Jennifer Mann has written for Highlights Magazine for Kids. In this poem, a group of farm animals waits for a mysterious egg to hatch. As you read, take notes on what the animals say and think about the egg. So they're even giving me a purpose for what I'm taking notes and annotating, that I'm going to be thinking about what the animals are saying and thinking about that egg. I'm noticing that this poem is laid out in stanzas. And remember, a stanza is like, it's almost thought of as like a paragraph in normal stories, but really it's lines that are kind of grouped together for a purpose, and they're separated from the next stanza. So here's one stanza, two stanzas, three stanzas, and notice how each stanza is separated by a space. 4 stanzas, 5 stanzas, 6 stanzas. I'm going to keep going. 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13 stanzas, and then I'm noticing some notes down here at the bottom, and there's like these numbers here. What these are is typically, as you're reading the poem, you might find a little number pop up next to a word, and that means maybe they're giving you a definition or giving you like a meaning that would help you make better sense of what you're reading. So let's take a look. Let's read the first stanza. And again, we're kind of predicting that maybe this is about like farm animals who come across an egg and they're curious about the egg. The farm slept through the gusty storm. Gusty, and I'm seeing the number 1 here. Can I click on it? Oh, nice. I clicked on the number 1. It said related to strong blowing winds. So I can say blowing winds in place of gusty if the word gusty is confusing. And I think I'm going to try that. The farmer slept through the blowing winds storm. So I know that it's a windy storm. It's a gusty storm. All tucked away inside and warm, while rafters shook and hinges squeaked. Rafters. While rafters shook. And notice how this pops up. I highlighted that and that popped up. Well, yeah. So you can pick any one of these colors that you like. I think I'm just going to stick with yellow. And I would like to also type something next to it. So the farmer slept through the gusty storm, all tucked away inside and warm, while rafters shook and hinges squeaked. Now I'm kind of imagining, and readers, great readers, visualize in their head what's happening as they're reading a story. So imagine this in your head. The farm slept. So we're going to kind of infer, okay, it's maybe the people inside or the animals inside, a barn or something. The farm slept through the gusty storm. So imagining you're using your senses and you're hearing this wind blow. All tucked away inside and warm. So although it's windy and everything outside, inside it's really nice and cozy warm. While rafters shook. So I'm imagining all these animals sleeping in this barn, and all the animals are cozy up inside of their barn, and it's nice and warm inside, but it's windy outside. So think about what's happening to this barn, maybe on the outside of it. Rafters shook. So I'm going to infer that maybe rafters could be what makes up the ceiling of the barn. So maybe it's maybe it's like the material that makes up that ceiling, the top part of the barn, and it's shaking because of the wind. So I'm going to click done, and then I wonder what happened to it. Okay, so the rafters is maybe the ceiling of the barn. Okay. All right, it's all there. And hinges squeaked. Hinges squeaked. So I'm going to infer that the hinges could be, and I'll make this, I'm going to stick with the same color, but feel free to make different colors. And the hinges squeaked. So when I'm thinking of hinges, I know for me, like a hinge is like what's on a door to kind of make the door open and shut. So while rafters shook and hinges squeaked, maybe the hinge is like the little part of the barn door that allows the barn door to open, and maybe the hinges to the barn door or the door is maybe it's starting to rattle or something like that, and it's making it make a squeaky noise. So I'm going to infer that the hinges are the things that kind of open and shut something maybe, and they're making like a squeaky noise because of the wind. So hinges are things that open and shut something. So really, learners, be thinking about how your senses are used. There's a lot of things that you can hear in your head if you let your imagination follow what's happening in the poem. Shutters banged. Shutters banged. So I'm going to infer that when they're talking about the shutters of the barn, maybe there are, and I know from my background knowledge that the shutters are things that typically cover like window type of areas. So maybe the shutters for the barn could be maybe like blinds or shades that are covering an open space. So shutters bang. So maybe the shutters are like blinds, and they are moving. They are moving back and forth or something because of the wind, and it's making noise. Now, the cool part about this, learners, is as you annotate your text, I'm going to really be able to see your annotations like this. Like it's going to all be saved, so I'll be able to see what you're doing when you annotate your text. And branches squeaked, so the branch, or creaked, the branches creaked. So I'm hearing the branches kind of sway because it's just so windy outside. So I'm going to make this yellow, and it says branches creaked. And I'm going to say that I'm going to annotate this by saying that the branches are moving and making noise because of the wind. The night was dark, the wind blew strong. So that's all stanza 1. And notice this number 1 here, that means it's the first line of the poem. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the 5th line, and there's the number 5. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's the 10th line. So whenever you're referring to something in the poem, and Balin, you do a really great job at this, you're just kind of saying, well, line 5 or line 10 it says. So that's what those numbers are. They kind of are there to help you with counting these lines. So I'm going to move on to the second stanza. The night was dark, the wind blew strong, a little egg was blown along. Small and silent, round and white, it rolled up to the barn that night. Bright sky, pink clouds, the rising sun. Rooster called, the morning's come. So this part here where it says bright sky, pink clouds, the rising sun, I'm going to infer that this part means that the storm is over. For the bright sky, pink clouds, the rising sun, the storm is over. So now in my head, I'm visualizing the storm being over. The storm is over. Rooster called, the morning's come, but then he noticed things amiss. Okay, they're about to give me a definition. Not quite right. So amiss means not quite right. But then he noticed things amiss. So things not quite right. The rooster. Well, when I'm looking at this picture, it's the rooster looking at the egg. So here's where I'm thinking he's going to talk about the egg that he's found. He crowed, surprised. Whose egg is this? He crowed. He crowed, surprised. Whose egg is this? So I'm going to infer that crowing means that maybe it's another word for him, for maybe talking, maybe? He crowed, surprised. Whose egg is this? So maybe it's another word for talking for a rooster. It's how, like, instead of saying he said, surprised, whose egg is this? He crowed. So, or I could say, infer that it's a noise that a rooster makes. The chickens cackled from their pens. If there's an egg, it's from us hens. So the chickens are automatically saying it's theirs. And I know that in the directions it said, as you read, take notes on what the animals say and think about the egg. So I'm going to infer then, I'm going to highlight this part again. Highlight, if there's an egg, it's from us. I'm going to write down here that the chickens are saying the egg is theirs. The chicken is saying the egg is theirs. So this type of there, notice how I wrote this word there. That means like a group of people is taking possession, or not even people, obviously, there's an animal, but something is taking possession over something. It's theirs. And there's the apostrophe to show it's taking possession over it. Don't be so quick, said Goose and Duck. Perhaps that egg is mine, they clucked. So now it looks like the goose and duck are saying, wait a minute, that egg could be mine. It's not necessarily yours. Be thinking, learners. Who are you predicting's egg this is? Goose and duck are saying it's theirs. So be thinking, learners, about what you know about eggs and the types of animals that could make this egg. I mean, the duck and the goose are saying it's theirs. The hens or the chickens are saying it's theirs. So be thinking who you think it is. So learners, I'm going to stop here. And what you're going to be doing is, as you read this poem, you're going to be annotating as well. You might have to back up and reread. You're going to jot notes on the side as you are, and when I say jot notes, I mean create these little comment messages, because that really helps you as readers. Great job, readers. Keep it up.